Scope followers. The program.
Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on the most influential sports talk show in the country. Going to talk about Game 7. Going to be a short show tonight because I want to see Game 7. So we'll cut the show 30 minutes short to watch Game 7. I think this is going to be this could be a 30 for 30 type of series. Kind of reminds me of Indiana and the Knicks back in the 90s. You know, they did a 30 for 30 for that. So 2 7-game series 2 years in a row. We'll talk about Game 7 and everything. Also, Jimmy Garoppolo, man, this is getting weird by the day with the Raiders situation. DeAndre Hopkins is a free agent. We'll talk about that and more. We'll go ahead and get our first and only break out of the way, and we will hit the ground running here on Sports Scope there, Pickles. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. Alrighty then, back on live on all links. Pickle says it is going to be a dog fight. I think so too. Now, Celtics forced the Game 7. I'll say this. They won the hustle points. I was looking at the box score. First of all, I recorded the game. Had a good friend of mine over. We're playing some marathon in this in these throwback Sega and Nintendo classic editions. But that being said, I recorded the game. Woke up really early Sunday morning. Watched it all the way through. Skipped all the nonsense, and I went back and looked at the box score, and of course it was what my eyes were telling me. Celtics outscored them in points in the paint, points off turnovers. They had less fouls. Think about it. The road team had less fouls. They played a cleaner game, and I thought that foul call on Jimmy Butler towards the end of the game, I thought that was nonsense. The league actually put out a statement. The league reviewed the last 2 minutes, and they said there was a lane violation there by the Heat. And also they mentioned the fact that they said this foul was a legit foul. Basically what they're really saying was, yeah, we let it go, but we called that foul on Horford on Jimmy Butler. That being said, Butler hits all the three free throws. There was a little controversy on whether or not they had 2.8 versus 3 seconds left. I thought it was nonsense. I thought the foul call was nonsense. I think the league tried to make up the call. Either way, the better team did win. That was Boston. Heck of a dog fight, though. Gabe Vincent playing through that injury there. Now, Malcolm Brogdon, I don't think he's going to play again tonight, for everything I'm reading. So Boston's banged up. This is going to take a lot out of the winter. I was telling a good friend of mine about this yesterday, Corey. I think that no matter who wins this, I think Denver's waiting. Sit back. They're rested. They'll be a little rusty early. They're long. They're confident. I think it's their time. Boston could beat them. Boston will have home court advantage. I think Boston's going to win tonight. I think they'll win comfortably tonight. But this coach, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it could go the other way. but I do think they will win. And, 48 hours later, they got to play Denver. Now, they may beat Denver in game one because Denver may be too rusty. Having that 10 days off, Pickles, it reminds me of whoever wins this game, kind of reminds me of the 2001 NBA Finals where the Lakers went through everybody like a hot knife through butter, and the 76ers led by Allen Iverson, two dogfight of a series. Remember, Boston, that Philadelphia team went to 2 7-game series. Ray Allen, that Milwaukee Bucks, Vince Carter, Pickles, and the Toronto Raptors. They were still hot. They were still their timing was good. They went on the road and they beat LA in game one. And of course, we know what happens. LA won 4 straight, and they went up winning the series. So I think the winner of this series, I think the next series, whether it be Boston or Denver, will probably go 5 games, in my opinion. Okay. Obviously, I mean, yeah, Boston could win. Boston could win. They've got the experience. They've got the right amount of depth. I don't know what Brogdon's situation is. I know Derek White is playing really good, and I know that, obviously Jalen and, everybody is they've been there, done that. That'll be their second NBA Finals. But that being said, it feels like has been off on road games. Yeah. And I was really surprised that they won both games at LA. But I said that. I called that series. I said LA will be out of gas. And they were. They were out of gas. They went out of gas in 4 games instead of 6, John. So, we'll see what happens. But that being said, this team, I think they're going to come back. And they do remind me of that 2004 Boston Red Sox team. There was some mental laxes there. There was a mental lapse there, kind of like that Boston, because of the great Bambino curse there, getting past the Yankees and the Babe Ruth trade. I understand they went to the World Series in '86, but it was a world beating of a Yankee team, and they knew they were better, and they came back and won with that new coach there, Terry Francona. I know it's a different coach there, a little different situation, but you see Jalen. Oh, geez. Whatever his freaking last name is, I've got so much going on my mind right now. He has confidence issues, kind of like the Red Sox. So I do think they're going to pull it off, though. I do think that Brown, thank you, not Brown, the other guy, John, shoot, not Brown, Tatum, Jason Tatum, shit, Tatum. So yeah, Tatum's got his confidence issues. Talented guy. Him and Brown are a little too passive, But that being said, you got to give them credit. They went down there. They had a 10-point lead, and Jaylen Brown said on TNT, he says, well, we didn't want to mess the thing up. Because Shaq was like, why do you guys letting them get back in the game? He said, well, we're worried about, making the big turnover instead of going for the win. So hopefully they'll do that tonight. I think they will. I think they'll probably win by about 10 points. And we'll see what happens. So it is what it is. Also, breaking news. Speaking of Philadelphia, Nick Nurse. Now, Philadelphia, they've got a championship coach here, former Toronto Raptor coach, now is the head coach of the 76ers. That tells me they will likely keep Joel Embiid. They may try to keep Harden. I'm not sure what they're going to do with Tobias Harris. That story just broke late this afternoon. I do think that they have a talented team with the right coaching. Maybe another piece there Maybe Daryl Morey can get with Nick Nurse there and see what they can do to maybe Newland Tobias Harris, something of that nature. Do you go after Damian Lillard? Do you go after a Dylan Brooks or somebody of that nature for Philadelphia? Do you monitor Joel Embiid's minutes more in the regular season? Do you change up his routines, his patterns, so he doesn't get hurt as usual in the playoffs? So it is something. It's going to be a lot of food for thought. I may dig into a little bit more of that story, folks, as the week goes on. Okay. Switching gears here. Let's see. Trying to think what I did with that DeAndre Hopkins story. I think I might have put it on Tuesday. Either way, okay. DeAndre Hopkins was cut. I don't have my notes anywhere. DeAndre Hopkins was cut from the he was cut from Phoenix there today. So that was the last time I talked to you guys. All right. This guy, 30-something years old, he has had injuries, folks. Hopkins has had injuries. Think about it. That was a trade done in 2019. The 2020 season was his only good season, really. He had over 100 catches there, and in his first season there with Kyler Murray. Now, Hopkins, folks, he's a world beater of a player. But that being said, remember year before last, he got hurt, had a nagging knee injury. Plus, he's been owed well over $22 million. He would have been a $30 million cap hit there. They're going to lose $22 million by cutting him. That being said, if they wait, if Phoenix waits, if they would have waited past June 1st, I know a lot of you are curious about that, John. If they would have waited, some of that money would have went over to next year. Arizona is thinking. They're thinking that they want to essentially do somewhat of a rebuild, do a soft tank there, if you may. Okay, I do think that situation there, and it goes to show you. Okay, you ask yourself, okay, now why did people break their neck to go get this receiver? Okay, for example, I'm out of Nashville. The Titans, Pickles, they traded a second-round pick for a Julio Jones who had a nagging hamstring injury on and off for the last 2 years that he was with Atlanta. Tennessee gave up a second and a future fourth-round pick. The guy played a handful of games. It was a total bust. Fan bases, people get really caught up in these superstars, these post-30 wide receivers. They get caught up in yesteryear. After I've been able to digest this story here with Hopkins, now I realize, while I know that Kansas City and Buffalo were interested, but they're saying, no, we can't pay that kind of money. We cannot give up that kind of draft capital. He was suspended 6 games for PEDs last year. He had the knee injury the year before that. He will be 31 next week, by the way. Happy birthday, DeAndre. I still think he's got plenty left in the tank. But I'll say this. You want to give a guy like that, don't give him $15 to $25 million. I think Baltimore would be a disaster. I went to a party Friday night. This guy was telling me to go to Baltimore. Listen, people's going to find out that Lamar Jackson cannot get his receivers the ball consistently on a consistent basis. That would be a crowded receiver room. Buffalo, I think you want to possibly talk about putting him in the slot. Put DeAndre Hopkins in the slot. Stephon Diggs is a few years younger. Keep him on the outside. Keep his fragile ego patched up. It's like an egg. It can easily crack. So you want to possibly, if you're Buffalo, if you are McDermott, if you're the GM up there, even Josh Allen, talk about possibly giving him a $10 million contract. I know that's $5 million less than Beckham. They're going to regret that in Baltimore, by the way. They're going to regret that in Baltimore, giving Odell Beckham $15 million. Mark my word, a guy that ain't played a season and a half. He's coming off 2 ACLs. That's crazy talk. Back to DeAndre Hopkins, okay? The thing about Hopkins, you want to possibly try him out at the slot, put Diggs as your wide out, and then you still have your legit deep threat in Gabriel Davis as a third receiver. You can hit deep routes, and then you can hit some stuff over the middle. You can hit some stuff over the middle with Kincaid there. Buffalo, I thought that would be the ideal fit for them. Obviously, Kansas City, they don't really have a true number one. The thing is, listen, folks, Deion Dawkins, John, who else was it? That was Von Miller. They're all saying, come on, baby. Come on, DeAndre Hopkins. Come to Buffalo. I checked Stephon Diggs, his Twitter timeline. I went on his Instagram. Nothing. Stephon Diggs is about Stephon Diggs. You're going to have to sell him on that. The way I would sell him is he's going to get better coverage. He's not going to get he'll get some double coverage. He's not going to get as much double coverage there. And you know, from McDermott, I'm telling guys, listen, we're trying to run the ball more. That being said, with this phenomenal tight end we have, with this quarterback, we could be virtually unstoppable with Dawson Knox at tight end, Dalton Kincaid at tight end. You've got the middle of the field. You've got a deep threat there with Gabriel Davis. You have a slot there. Push McKenzie down the depth chart. Put Hopkins in the slot, and then use Diggs on the outside. You know, you keep your defense relatively healthy. In September, nobody could touch them in September. You know, I did this division last week. I think they're going to win it, John, probably at 12-5. They're going to win it at 12-5. Pickles says maybe go to Chargers. Remember the Chargers? I nailed their. They took Quentin Johnson. I think that's his name. Quentin Jackson, Quentin something. They took a receiver out of TCU, as I predicted in my mock draft. You got him with Mike Williams, and of course you got your number one there, and I can't think of his name right now. But the Chargers would have too crowded of a room there. Kansas City, remember they've got a bunch of young cats there. They got a bunch of young guys there. But hey, if you got Patrick Mahomes throwing you the ball, they're going to find out real quick whether or not he's got anything left in the tank. So Kansas City still could be that team. Now, if I'm New England, on the other hand, now I watched a video on CBS here. It was a CBS podcast. CBS put it out here. John, you may have seen it. It basically had the guy, he said, don't say anything. Just give me your gestures. And he asked about the Jets. And this was before Rodgers signed with the Jets. And he went, And he said he did the same kind of, like he smelled like somebody passed gas in an elevator. But then he said, what about Buffalo? He said, yeah. He said, what about Kansas City? He said, yeah. But now think about it. If you have a Jet team now with Aaron Rodgers here with the Hopkins, but that Devontae Adams thing's just got a little bit more interested. I'll talk about that here in just a second. So my thing is, going back to the salary, if you're smart GM, $10 million base, he can get up to 22. He could get up to $22 million in a incentive base. Basically, if you can play 15 games, you give me 90 catches, that is more than enough. That is more, Keenan Allen. Thank you, Pickles. And that is true, right? Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I think if I had to guess, guys, I think this is Keenan Allen's last year in the Chargers, but they took Quentin Jackson or whatever his last name is. They took the TCU receiver in the first round. So, and Buffalo has really done nothing to help their defense to stop the run. I think it's still a problem. Yeah, and it's a hot seat year for Sean McDermott. We'll have to see the way that thing plays out in Buffalo. I do think that if they run the ball more, I still think Allen's talented enough to make things happen. They really could use it. So could the New York Jets. Something's going to pop with the Jets. Do they cut Corey Davis? Save $10 million and bring in a DeAndre Hopkins? Okay, so it's between Buffalo, Kansas City, as everybody's talking about. If I'm New England, maybe I offer $12 million in some incentives because New England needs him more. They need a DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins really likes. So New England can use him, and so could the Jets. But got another story related to there's a crazy story with this every day since last week. This Jimmy Garoppolo story gets crazier and crazier by the minute. Okay, so Jimmy Garoppolo failed his physical. Okay, there's arguments on NFL.com between Pro Football Talk and Mike Florio. This is actually a time where I actually believe Mike Florio, the author, the creator of Pro Football Talk. So essentially, Jimmy Garoppolo, this came out over the weekend that he signed a waiver because he failed this physical and still recovering from a foot injury back in December, talking about Garoppolo, folks. And he's missed OTAs. His whole contract could be void every day past this week. Jimmy Garoppolo seems more and more serious, as if there's a chance he might not play again. I mean, this thing is wild. I think that maybe I overreacted with Devontae Adams saying, I don't know about this. These guys, they have nobody. I mean, they got Brian Hoyer on their depth chart, folks. They've got Brian Hoyer. What did this say here? They've got Brian Hoyer on their depth chart here. And they're now Mike Florio is saying maybe they go to Tom Brady. But the owners will have to approve of that. And if the owners approve of Tom Brady purchasing part of this team, this is according to, let me make sure and get this right. As reported on Saturday by Vincent Bongnigsor of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Brady might have to agree to never play again in order to secure approval from the NFL owners. Also, if Brady becomes an owner and wants to play, he apparently will be required to get anonymous approval from the other owners, so which frankly makes no sense. What makes less sense is the Raiders have pinned their hopes to a mediocre quarterback with a messed up foot. It makes a little more sense if Brady is lurking to be the break glass emergency type of option, folks. So listen, that's the Raiders being the Raiders. I mean, that's the Raiders. That's the team since 2002 that has been total chaos. You know, hiring guys like Lane Kiffin, 34-year-old offensive coordinator from USC, going in from Al Davis's crazy things. And then you had, you had the Al Davis stuff. Then now Mark Davis. You had the Antonio Brown stuff. You had the move to Vegas. You've had the crazy incidents in Vegas with the players. It's a total chaos. They're kind of like Miami, in certain sense. You never know. You get a sense that they are, they are making it up as they go along. Colin Cowherd said last week, maybe it's a soft tank. People are saying that for Arizona, and they're saying it for Tampa as well. I think that's a crazy long shot to bring Brady in there. They got a decent left tackle, that left guard there, the center. That line is treacherous. I know Josh McDaniels is there. If I'm Brady, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. I take my little ownership thing and I do away. They did not. I checked their draft. They didn't do anything else to shore up their line. They got a pretty good. I do like the Tyree Wilson defensive lineman they've got. But you got guys like Brian Hoyer and, who was this other guy? Adrian Cannell and Chase Garbers. These are practice squad players with Hoyer there. Jimmy Garoppolo, again, his whole contract could be void. I thought it was a wacky signing when it happened. And then they didn't get a chance to get Jared Stidham because he ended up going to Denver. I think the Raiders are probably a 4 or 5 win team. I think McDaniels could, if Mark Davis can afford it, get fired and be back elsewhere next year, maybe New England, and possibly Bill O'Brien get another head coaching job somewhere. So I can see that playing out that way. But this thing with Garoppolo, going back to the Jets, what about Davante Adams? Would you trade Davante Adams before the trade? The trade deadline's huge nowadays. Remember, Bradley Chubb was traded last year. Von Miller was traded to the L.A. Chargers the year before, or L.A. Rams the year before that, and helped them win the Super Bowl. Could he get traded before the start of training camp? That's possible. If Garoppolo's situation, this guy gets an injury in December, he's not healthy by March, what kind of foot injury is this? There could be permanent foot damage from what I was reading in that article. So, Brady would pay the Raiders to play. So, yeah, that Pickles says he thinks the Raiders would want to go to the Raiders. I don't know about that, possibly, because he does work with McDaniels. Maybe he thinks he can figure it out. But, man, that Charger team's loaded. Denver's much better coached. Kansas City is Kansas City. Do you really want to be on a 6-11 team? I don't know about that. I simply don't know if I would do that. But this Garoppolo thing, like I said before, I think it felt kind of a wacky kind of signing from the get-go, and it's really unfortunate. An organization like the Raiders, I know from back from the 70s, Pickles, people talk about how great the Raiders were at one time, and Al Davis was a smart guy at one time. You really can't say the same thing about that now. I did like the fact that John Gruden is getting back in the NFL, and that's something I may talk about tomorrow's program. John Gruden's working with Derek Carr down in New Orleans. I'm glad the guy's getting another opportunity to go out and coach against. But back to the Raiders, that is to be continued. Davante Adams could get traded if somebody can afford him. If there's an injury, he could get traded before training camp. He could get traded, definitely get traded around the trade deadline, because I think something's going to go back. I think it's going to go off the rails here in Vegas. I really do. I can kind of see it going off the rails in Vegas. I could see it going off the rails in Tampa. So, again, folks, I'm going to get on this game too. I'm excited. I like Boston to win this game tonight comfortably. 2 Boston teams. How about that? Coming back from 0-3. If they don't, that would be an interesting story as well. I'm curious how that would play out, because it seems like Miami doesn't have anything left in the tank. If you guys like the show, share the show. Pickle says go Heat. He likes the Heat there. I guess you're a Gabe Vincent fan, or I don't know. Pat Riley's a pretty likable guy. He's still kind of running the show down there. Anyways, folks, I will see you tomorrow, same time. Maybe I'll go over the AFC South we'll talk a little bit more about Nick Nurse, and I didn't get a chance to have a take on Adrian Griffin. Also got hired with the Milwaukee Bucks. Plenty of stuff to talk about tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place here on Sports Scope. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.